Hey, everybody. Thanks again, Jonathan. Let me share my screen really quick, as I have a few slides and then a demo of some of the features that Jonathan mentioned. Once again, thank you for joining us and welcome. As Jonathan mentioned, my name is Robert Burdick, and I manage the developer platform team here at Roku. Before we do get started, however, quick bit of housekeeping, just to remind everyone that you can join the Slido channel for Q&A during the session. Just simply scan this QR code with your phone, and you should be all set up and ready to go. Like I said, I do have a demo to run through to show you one of the newer self-cert automation features that we've added to the developer platform. But to give it some context before we get started, I'd like to give just a little bit of background of how we got here, what we've done so far. For many of you, this will already be familiar. Some of you have been using these tools already. But for those of you who haven't, just to give you kind of a context as to what our self-certification is all about. So way back when, before any of these tools or any of this functionality were created, channel certification testing, as well as the actual publishing of channels into the Roku channel store, was all done manually. And in the early days, that was okay. But over time, as our platform grew, as the content catalog grew, and certainly as we were growing internationally, this leads to problems of scale. There's only so much that you can do without any kind of automation. And so we've had this vision to, over time, as much as we possibly can, move the channel testing, automation, certification testing and publishing as well, to much more of a developer-driven self-service model. That started a couple years ago with some simple static analysis functionality that we built into the developer portal. We had this aim of being able to test and check for compliance with some level of the channel certification requirements, with simply analyzing your code statically with some of our backend services to look for common bugs. API deprecations, failure to include certain libraries to meet requirements, etc. And that system has been up and running for some time. When you submit your channel and run static analysis, you can get test results kind of like the ones you see on the screen here. But that's very limited. That functionality is only limited to what kind of checks and testing you can do just by looking at your code. So to expand upon that, we added features what we call channel behavior analysis. And simply put, what CBA, or channel behavior analysis, brings to the table is a means of running some automation, actual performance and behavior tests on your channel, in addition to the static analysis tests. So now you submit a channel, and we can do things like run your channel on a cloud-based Roku device to check for things like channel launch performance time, or how long does it take for content playback to start in your channel. Another really important feature that we support is checking for deep linking compliance. All of these things now supplement the static analysis functionality that we have on the platform. But there are limitations with that model as well. And the initial release of channel behavior analysis only really supported free or AVOD channels. And the reason for that was there was no way, if you had a authenticated channel, something that you have to log into in order to get content playback to work, we had no way of knowing how to sign into your channel. Different channels have different user interfaces, maybe some customizations around how they do their sign-in flows. And so without the developer being able to tell us, Roku, how to actually authenticate and navigate your channel, we couldn't really do much more than free and AVOD channels. Well, we've changed that over this past summer. We added support to the CBA functionality for you, the developer, to provide some developer scripts specifically for sign in to your channel and sign out of your channel that essentially teach us, our Roku system, how to navigate and authenticate your channel. So that's the background behind what this feature is all about. So I'm going to proceed now with a demo that's going to entail a couple of different things. The first is our Roku Remote Tool, which you see over here on the left of my screen. I will kind of move this around a little bit so you can see different aspects of the tool as needed, but I want to share space on the screen for my actual Roku device so you can see what's happening during the demo on the actual connected device. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you first just by using the physical remote. I'm going to navigate through and show you the channel that I'm going to write sign in and sign out scripts for this demo. And so here, already side loaded on the device, is a very simple example of an authenticated channel with a sign up and a sign in screen. This is the channel that we're going to use as the basis for the scripts that we're going to write for our automation testing. Okay, so I'm going to exit that now, go back to the home screen. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take over all of the navigation and everything with the Roku Remote Tool to build the scripts. So the first thing we need to do is build a script that signs into this channel. All right. So in order to do that, again, with the Remote Tool, I've already launched it. I already have it pointing at the specific device in question. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, go over to, under the Automation tab here, hit the New Script link and say, Add New Script. And I'm going to give this thing a name. And since this is going to be my channel sign-in script, I'm simply going to call it Login. And as you see, it already pre-populates a .rasp or RASP, as we call it, extension. That stands for Roku Automation Script Player. So it's basically just a text file that is going to contain all of the automation steps that we specify by using the remote tool. So the script is going to be created while we navigate, while we drive the channel using the Roku Remote Tool. And at the end of that process, we will export or save that so we can use it for submission through the developer portal to the CBA functionality. All right. So the first thing we're going to do, and this is true for sign-in scripts as well as sign-out scripts, is we're going to do the add channel and the launch channel steps. Specifically, in the case of the launch channel step, we need to do this for each new script because the automation system that behind the scenes actually powers the channel behavior analysis functionality. After each test suite, if you will, each script that's run, whether it's one that you supply as the developer or whether it's the scripts that we use for the testing of launch performance, etc., the channel is exited after each of those steps. And so you need to tell Roku through your script how to launch the channel so that that next step, i.e. running your script, will work. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to say add channel. And my side-loaded channel is called on-device authentication. So let's select that name. And through the magic of ECP, it's already determined that that's the side-loaded dev channel. And so now, so I don't have to enter the channel ID myself. And then I'm going to say add to table. Now what this does, this is if you were to build, say, numerous scripts for various purposes, maybe your own testing, et cetera, independent of CBA. It's to be able to reuse and reselect channels down the road for other scripts. So the next time around, I won't have to do this. But I do have to say now, add to script. So this little plus button under the add to script header, when I select that and I close this dialog, you'll see now that it's added that first step to my login script for adding the channel. And then next, I'm going to say launch channel. And I have to select the channel again. So on device authentication. There are options here for a content ID and a media type. For the purposes of a login script, we don't really need to enter anything here. The reason being, you would use that if you were building a separate script of your own for your own, say, testing, to do deep linking testing. But since this is going to be used in this case simply to navigate and log into the channel, we don't have to supply any of the deep linking parameters. So I'm just going to hit the add button again so that it gets added to my table for future use, and then simply say add to script again. And now if I close down the dialog, you'll see there's a launch channel step that's been added. All right. So far what we've got in our script is pretty basic. We're simply launching, we've added the channel to the script and we're launching the channel, and that's all that's going to happen. So if I select that script now and just hit the run script button to show you what happens, you'll see, and I'll show you the steps as they run. All that's going to do is launch the channel, and that's it. The script will end, and we're basically done. Okay, so what we're going to have to do now is go through the rest of the steps to authenticate this channel, and then ultimately save that script out for use by CBA. Okay, so I'm going to do one thing before I continue, and I'll explain why in a second. If you notice here towards in the little button bar in the remote tool, there's a pause button or something that's with a tooltip that says insert sleep. And the little one there is for 1 second. So if I click this button, it'll basically add a pause instruction, which basically tells the script to pause for that 1 second. I'm going to crank that up now just to 3 seconds. So anytime I enter a pause command now, I'll get a 3-second pause. And I'm going to insert one right now. And so I click that button and you see there's now a pause 3 instruction that's been added to the script. And you might ask yourself, okay, why did I do that? It's kind of useful for more complex channels. A channel like we're using now is pretty simple, executes pretty fast, and it doesn't really go and populate a ton of content. But you might be writing a script that drives a channel that loads a fairly large amount of content into your channel content grid. You might have some kind of cool loading animation that you show at the very beginning of channel startup before you present the user with your equivalent of a sign-in button or your sign-in screen. And so the reason it's sometimes important to use this pause command is if you do have effects like that happen at some point during your channel, you can use these pause commands strategically throughout your script to give your script, tell your script to wait while your channel is catching up, if you will. If you have an animation that you know is going to run for a couple of seconds before the rest of your UI renders, you can insert the pause to allow your script to wait while the channel is actually getting to the point where continuing with your script makes sense. So I'm going to insert one here as if this were a complicated UI, which it's really not, but just to kind of illustrate the fact that that's sometimes useful when you're writing your scripts. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is there's 2 buttons on this channel. There's a sign up and a sign in button. I'm going to use the sign in workflow because I'm going to use an existing account. And the reason I'm going to do that is when you run your channel in CBA, as we'll see when I show you the developer portal, the system is going to use one of the test accounts that you supplied during your channel submission process. And so your script should basically sign you in versus going through a new fresh sign up or account link process. All of the steps now for navigation you can do through the Remote Tools virtual keyboard, remote keyboard. So to get to the sign in button, for example, I just have to press the down button. And you see it inserted a press down instruction and then highlighted the sign in button. And then I want to press OK. And that brings up the standard Roku Pay dialog for picking either, my Roku account or using a new email. Now here's another point where I would insert a pause. So I'm going to hit the sleep button again. And the reason for this is, again, in this particular example, this is a very simple dialog. It doesn't take time to render, but you might have, again, in your channel, a more rich UI for collecting usernames and passwords. You might want to give the channel time to actually render. Okay, so from this point forward now, I just need to navigate down to use different email. So I'll hit the down button again and press OK. And this brings me to the sign-in screen, which says press OK to enter email. All right, so I'm going to hit the OK button. And there we have a new OK instruction has been entered. And now I need to enter the username. So for that, instead of navigating through the keyboard with the arrow keys, I'm going to use the input field, the keyboard input field here, to enter my test account name. So I'm going to use test user. It takes a little time to catch up, especially with the capture card running, at Roku. That's done. Okay, so test user roku.com. And then very important, the next thing I need to do is press the little purple arrow. And that will insert, as you see, a text instruction with that test user into the script. So when the script runs, it would actually automatically inject that text. Okay, now, as if I were doing this manually, I just need to navigate down to the OK button. So that's going to be 4 clicks of down. And you see each time I do this is adding a new press down command to my auto-generated script. One more time, we'll focus the OK button, and I hit now OK. And I'm back at the screen. I'm going to scroll down over here in the right so you can see the instructions that are getting added. Okay, now I need to navigate down again. Press OK to enter password. And same kind of idea, we're at an entry screen with a standard keyboard dialog again. And here I'm going to enter my super secret password, my and a 0 for the O. And when that's done, again, I have to press the arrow key. That text gets entered into the script. One more click down to get to the OK button. Click OK. Click down one more time, and the sign in button should be highlighted. And now if I press the OK button, I'm authenticated. All right. So now I'm going to go back to the manual remote now. I want to exit the channel. I'm going to do this with the physical remote. I'm not going to use the home or the back key in the remote tool, because that would add those instructions to my script. And if those were to get run by CVA, your channel would exit during your testing, and that would get reported back to you as an error, which you don't want. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to save that script, my login script. So I'm going to click on the dots again and say export scripts. I'm going to say I want to export the login.rasp script. And then save that as login.rasp. Excellent. Okay, so that's how I created my login script. Now I need to create my sign out script. So I'm going to go back to the new script option and say add new script. And again, give it a name. And unsurprisingly, this is going to be called log out. You can call it whatever you want, of course. Say create, and we're back to a clean slate. I now again have to do the add step. On-device authentication, my sideloaded channel is already picked or is already available. So I'm just going to say add to script. And then launch channel, add to script. Again, the sign out script, when it runs in CVA, is a separate automation is a separate test script, and it needs to start from the home screen. So that's why you want to make sure you launch your channel, because you're going to be starting from the home screen. Now, if I run the logout script from this point, you'll see the same thing happens as before. It's simply going to launch the channel. And now that we're authenticated, of course, we're in the content. So now I just have to navigate. I have to build my script to log out. And if you see in the overhang of the channel, you see press star to log out. Well, that's easy enough. So I'm going to press the star key. And that adds a press info button command. And this particular channel UI has a dialog that's telling me I've been logged out, etc. My registry's been deleted. Okay, great. I want to close this dialog out as well as part of my script. So I just hit OK. And I'm now logged out. If I were to relaunch the channel, you'd see I'd be logged out. We need to now save the script. So again, I go to the export scripts option. I say I really want to export a logout script this time, and save that as logout.rasp. Okay. Let's go through these steps now. And see, I'm going to check my time. I think I have enough time to do this real fast. Let's run the login script and make sure it actually works. Okay, so we've been signed out of the channel. If I run the login script through the remote tool, scroll over so you can see all the steps again. And basically, the remote tool is just going to now play back for me all of these steps and walk through the script to sign me into my channel. Again, here we are stuck on the pause. Not really necessary for this channel. And now it goes down. It's going to go through the steps of signing in, bringing up the sign in, login dialog. It will go down to focus the use different email option. It'll hit OK. We're going to go into the step of entering the username. And that's where this text command is super useful. It's just telling, the script is now telling the device, inject this text into the focused field to automatically enter the username without having to navigate the entire keyboard. When that finishes, it'll navigate down to the OK button. I'll scroll down so you can see the rest of the commands as they execute. The OK button. Now we're back to the sign-in screen. And again, as you can see, no hands. It's the remote tool doing all of this work by itself. And this gives you a good way, before you submit your channel, you can test your flow. You can make sure that your sign-in script is going to work, and kind of increasing your chances of passing certification the first time through if you go through and debug your script a few times. We're going to be pretty much done. One more down, and then an OK, and we're signed in. Okay, so we're pretty confident now that our script is going to work. So what we are almost ready to do is take this, turn around, and submit it along with our channel package to the developer portal for CBA. But there's one last thing you need to do. So back when we were building our script, we used the remote to enter a specific test user so we could check that sign in actually worked, right? Before you use the script in CBA, you're going to want to replace this text with this placeholder text called script login for the username. And similarly, where your password was entered, script dash password. Oops. And it helps to spell it correctly, of course. And I'll explain why when we go to the developer portal. And then I need to resave this. So this is the login script. export. So I'm going to resave the login script. So now, instead of that specific test account, it's got those placeholder script user, script login, and script password names. And the reason for that is as follows. So now let's switch over to the developer portal. And let me go to, I'm in a specific channel, the test channel on my account. If you recall, you may be familiar with these new entry areas in the channel submission flow. One of them is test credentials. And you can now, through the developer portal, create and save test credentials for your channel. And these get used by the channel behavior analysis functionality to find the credentials to use when the scripts run. So I've already added a test account for this channel, and there I use the name, this test user, the Roku.com account, with that highly secure password, my content. And now, when I go into the channel behavior analysis section, up here, okay. In this screen now, this is where I can submit to the channel behavior analysis service the sign in and sign out scripts that we just created. So if I click the upload link here, you see this nice dialog. And the first thing in here, of course, there's these upload buttons, but the first thing is for sign in, I want to use these test credentials. So I'm going to select one of the test accounts that's associated with that channel that I was just showing you in the test account, the test credential screen. And why that's important, and I'm just going to get signed out. I love it. All right. Developer portal timeout hit me. So I'll sign back in. Okay. I select that test account, and now when I say script upload, I'm going to use my login.rasp script. But look at what happened. When we last saved that script, we had the script login placeholder for the username, and we had the script password placeholder for the password. And so the script that you supply can be used with any of the test accounts that you might have associated with your channel, which is really handy. You might want to use one account for certain kinds of content. There might be another account for premium content, etc., that you might want to test for different reasons. And so when you upload your script, those placeholders will get replaced with the credentials associated with the test account that you selected in this dropdown. Okay, and then you would save that. And then I would go back to edit, and I want to actually now add my sign out script. And same thing here. Now the logout script doesn't have any test account or test credentials associated with it. So when I add that, you just basically get the same thing that we started with. And then I can save that. And at that point, I could run CBA. Now I think because I logged out, there's something going on here that I have to change. But the CBA button would generally be available. You could run your tests, and when the tests are complete, you would end up with, it's a little hard to see, but you would end up with something, results that look something like these, but without errors. Of course, your channel would pass. This is a test case of my own that failed. But similar to the static analysis testing, you'd see the test results for all of your for all of the tests that ran against your channel. All right, so that's basic overview of CBA and how it works, and specifically the emphasis on the developer sign in and sign out script functionality. And I think, Jonathan, we're now ready for questions.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is let's just check the Slido, see if we have any questions going on. Let me share my screen. And let's present this full screen. So I think we just have a couple of questions that we seeded here. So let's just ask these two, see if anyone else submits anything. So
Sure.
Are authenticated channels required to pass channel behavior analysis testing in order to be certified?
So as of like today, exactly today, no, but we do have plans, and I think Pam hinted at this during her keynote section as well, that in the early part of the first half of 2022, we do plan to make that mandatory.
Okay. Yep. And is there a way to test my scripts on my own device before actually submitting my channel for CBA testing through the Developer Dashboard?
Yes. So that goes to a lot of what we were talking about during the demo. So to build the script for ultimate submission to CBA, we did all that work to build the script with the remote tool. And again, those were specific cases to build a sign-in and sign-out script. But now you can use that same remote tool to build scripts to do any level of testing that you want against your channel, against side-loaded channels, for example, that are connected to your computer where you're running the remote tool on the same network as the device. If you're on the same network, you can talk to your local device, build scripts to do testing. You can do deep linking testing. You can do navigation or behavioral stress testing. People use the remote tool all the time for their own rule your own automation to test all kinds of functionality before they ever submit to us. And so that's one of the reasons we think that this is a fairly, although this represents a new change, a fairly different flow when it comes to automatically testing an authenticated channel. Lots of developers are familiar with the remote tool from their own testing, that we think that sort of transition to this is relatively straightforward. So short answer is yes, you can use the remote to do any kind of pre-submission, pre-certification channel testing you want to do.
So John's got a question. Are there plans to add command line functionality to the RASP tool where a developer could automate running the RASP scripts?
So let me see if I understand the question. So you'd want to say, build your scripts using the remote tool, and then drive them through some other, command line driven, CI driven, what have you, automation system. We haven't done anything like that yet, but I can definitely see the value or the utility in doing that, and it's something we could certainly consider.
Let me just double check, because I think we're looking to. I did see that John raised his hand. John, do you want to add on to that? If you have anything else to add on, you could use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and I can have you talk to Robert. There we go. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. There we go, John. So John, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I originally raised my hand because it sounded like it was asking me a follow-up question to the question. But yeah, I definitely would look forward to if we had some command line options for it. Robert, you mentioned during your presentation that you would, developers could test the script ahead of time before, going to your website. I think that it'd be useful to be able to automate that, especially if the sign-in flow might be a bit more complex, different devices, or different languages or something to that nature. And yeah, we do use that the RASP tool for a lot of things, and command line would definitely help us. I also wonder that there's a little disparity between like the Roku automated test framework and the RASP tool. They're both different ways to kind of automate the Roku. And I know they're used for different purposes, but it'd be kind of cool to see a bit more linking between the two. Maybe be able to export a RASP script in an automated test framework.
Into something like the robot driver or the web driver.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, no, these are great ideas.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks,
Sure.
John. And all right, so we're going to have one from Chris Dwyer Perkins. Chris is asking, are any plans for the remote automation tool to not send the home press? That kind of, he believes that limits the usefulness of the tool a bit. So
Do not. That is an interesting question. So the scripts that you build, like the ones we walked through, they work in conjunction with some Roku automation tooling that runs behind the scenes that for a variety of reasons is built to do that. We would have to investigate, what kind of options there would be there. I don't have a solid answer for that one off the right now.
all right, these are going to be our last two questions because we need to head off to the RSG panel. So would it be acceptable to add custom deep link support for the log in, log out to bypass the sign-in automation process of stepping through the individual screens?
That's interesting. And hi, Steve. It's been a long time since we've talked. Steve's a long time Roku developer. Let's see. So basically, let me see if I get your question right. Are you asking if we were to enable your sign-in script to do the first deep link for you, and therefore take out the Roku provided automation step of doing deep linking support? Is that what you mean?
Let me see if I can get Steve to.
If so, I mean, it's something we could certainly look into. I mean, I don't think there's any technical reason we couldn't, but I want to make sure I understand what it is you're asking.
So Steve, you have the floor. Go for it.
Hey, Robert.
Hey,
Thanks,
Larry.
Jonathan. So basically I'm asking if we can bypass the majority of that automation and just allow the script to log in through some other mechanism so that, or I guess basically the question is the automation part of the certification process, or are we just trying to give you guys a way for your scripts to run and authenticate themselves?
It's definitely more. It was intended and designed for the latter, basically. So let's say you were an AVOD only, like a non-authenticated channel. Without even providing a script, things would work today, where channel would be launched. We would pull the deep linking parameters that you supply through the portal, and one of our behind the scenes script steps is to do the deep linking test. But there's certainly no reason we couldn't think about whether that deep linking step could be part of the sign-in script instead.
Thanks, Steve.
Great. Thank you.
All right, the last question. For sign up flow script, since the email will be new every time, how can we add dynamic email? How can we add a dynamic email placeholder?
Sign-in flow script. Since the email will be new every time. So the email that we entered in that was a test account.
Yeah, not sure why the email would be new every time.
Yeah, I'm not quite understanding the question, to be honest. Yeah, what email is new? I mean, test accounts can certainly expire. So if you have a test account that maybe expires quickly and you have to create a new one, but how would it be added dynamically, I guess?
So, sure. Rigo, do you want to add on to this question or clarify? I've given you the ability to talk. Or not. I guess I think that is it. Robert, thank you so much. That was phenomenal.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, I hope you guys find this useful.